The Luncheon mushroom lady from down under went back to court and she seems to be fine, just waiting it out, and we're going to talk about it in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. That's the sofa back there with Mr. Roscoe, who is on cue giving himself a little bath. My name's Paul. I won't be taking a bath, but we will be talking about true crime. Now what we're going to be discussing specifically today is the case from down under Australia, and this involves the Luncheon mushroom lady, Erin Patterson. We will look at a quick video to kind of get us up to par if you're not familiar with this case on what took place before we get into like the quick update. Again, this is just going to be a short kind of quick update. I've been following this case, looking for traction on it, for justice for the victims. Of course, we don't know if she's guilty or not guilty at this point, but we maybe soon will see, or at least next year possibly. So before we do get into it, if you want to follow Roscoe and I outside of the tubes, we're on the Instagram. The Instagram is on the screen. Go on, give it a follow. Now let's go ahead and look at a quick clip to kind of put us all on the same page of how we arrived at the video today.
Erin Patterson has been charged with 3 counts of and 5 counts of attempt. The charges relate to an incident on July 29 where 4 people were taken to hospital after they fell ill following a meal at Erin Patterson's home in Leongatha. Police say the further 3 attempted charges relate to 3 separate incidents in Victoria between 2021 and 2022.
The people who you saw pictured were the victims. Now remember, there's one surviving victim. I would pay good money to know what he had to say, but I do believe he is working with authorities and whatnot to help bring justice to the situation for his wife or his friends. So this is the scenario. After an investigation, she was finally arrested. She was charged, as you hear, with all these charges, and she's been sitting ever since. Now, she did make an appearance in court. Now, remember, this is Australia. Very different vibe as far as court systems, the justice system, all that goes. Here in the States, it's more of like very transparent. We are in there, the courtroom most of the time with the people, you know, whether it's television or in person, whatever. And it's quite different down there, or over there, I should say. I'm not quite sure in relation to me, but you know what I'm saying, it's not here. So just keep that in mind. It's mostly we're going to be following this through reporters and people like that. But what I want to do is go ahead and put a few clips from an article up here, talk about it, talk about the update, what kind of implications this might have on the case overall. So as you see this headline here, it's April 22nd. It says alleged poison mushroom person. Of 3, Erin Patterson appears in an Australian court again. Now this is Melbourne, Australia, and it does say the woman accused of serving her ex-husband's parents and an aunt poisonous mushrooms with lunch appeared in an Australian court on Monday, charged with 3 counts of M and 5 of attempted M. Now it says that Erin, she's 49 years old. She had briefly appeared in a Latrobe Valley Magistrates Court by video link from a Melbourne prison where she's been held since she was arrested last November. So remember, this whole thing was like this weird vibe of she was having, you know, her estranged or ex-husband, whatever it was at the time, his parents over to have this discussion, and they had this meal. Her kids were conveniently away from the house. You know, he, meaning the husband, was supposed to come over there too, but he backed out last minute. So you can only imagine. Now, it does appear that she had attempted to do something like this beforehand. Of course, all this will play out in court. So once this went down and we got all the information, I mean, the level of just uncanniness to it obviously is horrifying. But then to think that these were these people's last meal, essentially, you know, their last moments. These were elderly people that she did this to. By the grace of God, Ian survived, okay, and is able to come back and tell the story, and I'm sure he has a story to tell. Now let's get a little deeper into the article and let's read what took place in that court hearing. So as you can see, a little sketch of Erin here, and at the top it says Magistrate Tim Walsh said he would announce on May 7th whether Erin would face a committal hearing in the same court in Morell or Melbourne. Morell is a rural town near Patterson's home, about 90 miles east of Melbourne, the Victoria state capital. Committal hearings determine whether prosecutors have sufficient sufficient evidence to put charges before a jury in a Victorian Supreme Court trial. It was her second appearance on the charges. She has yet to enter any pleas and has not applied to be released on bail. So here's one thing I think is interesting. This is just from the legal perspective of it. And again, Australian versus what we're familiar with here. So they're saying she hasn't even pled guilty, not guilty yet or anything, right? So November, December, January, February, March, April, and now we're getting ready to go into May. So, I mean, it's been a minute, right? Now, of course, obviously, I would not expect this to be going to trial or anything like that yet. It does say it was her second appearance. She has not applied to be released on bail. I can assure you they probably would not let that happen, okay? At all. So I just think it's interesting for that. And then the committal hearing, to determine, okay, do we have sufficient evidence, that type thing. These are things that we're familiar with here in our system, but I feel like even though the wheels of justice turn very slow here in a different way, I feel like some of this stuff is done a little bit faster over here versus over there maybe. But it seems like overall the process might go quicker over there in general. So again, it's just interesting to see how the different legal systems play out. Let's go ahead on to that next clip from the article. Now it just says here that the potential maximum sentence in Victoria for her charge is life imprisonment, and for the attempted M, it's 25 years in prison. She was wearing a blue prison sweater. When asked if she could hear at the outset of the hearing, she replied, "Yes, thank you." Now her lawyer said his client wanted the committal hearing held in Morel, even if that meant a delay until next year. If it happens next year, then Ms. Patterson's content to wait for that, Mandy told the magistrate. Mandy said she wanted the hearing to take place closer to her home. Now, the last thing here says defense lawyers have provided prosecutors with a list of anticipated witnesses to be called at the committal hearing, which Mandy said he expected would last 3 weeks. So just that hearing alone with witnesses and that kind of thing coming up, Ian is going to be in this thing or whatever, you know what I'm saying? He is going to be testifying, I am sure, and talking about whatever was done last, because here's the thing. I am so curious to know if this is like, to me, it went two ways. Either she completely acted benign, like, oh, it's so nice to see you, let's have this, wonderful, wonderful, or she was sliding some kind of sinister vibe in there, knowing this is their last meal. I'm going to let them know what I really think here. Almost like as people are eating and you start to kind of divulge that. But she probably also knew it when it happened instantaneously. Because remember, it does seem, and this is going to be a huge thing that they probably testify about, that she had probably a separate meal for herself. If you have followed this case, remember where the kids had leftovers. So it does seem, she was like, oh, but I scraped the mushrooms off. And I believe it was like a beef Wellington that she made. Well, the meal that she made, it's so odd to sit here and say, if you cooked mushrooms and something and they were this poisonous, it's going to get all over everything. So it's almost like, how did you not have just two separate meals that you ate from? So with Ian being able to testify, if he can say, yes, she had the plates, we didn't have a choice, she handed us the plates, or we saw her specifically get her serving from over here, whatever the case may be, I think that's going to be a pivotal point in this case. Also, what conversation was going on? Is he going to be talking about, yes, she was having this weird, conversation of kind of coming clean about this or that, or saying goodbye to us, or, you know what I mean? That kind of vibe. I'll be very curious to hear if that is the case. I do not know. I mean, bless this man's heart. Can you imagine? At this age, you go to lunch and your loved ones, including your spouse, are wiped out. Okay, at the hands of, I'm sorry, but Annie Wilkes vibes is going on here with Aaron. I mean, I hate to say this, but it is what it is. How utterly devastating. Now he's having to go through the court system, do all this kind of stuff. And I mean, bless his heart, thank God he is, right? But on the same note, no one should have to be doing this stuff at this stage in life. This is one of the things where it's just disgusting what happens when people try and do these stupid acts to take everybody's lives or whatever, and they end up, I mean, luckily he survived, but again, he's all caught up with her now, and it's just, it's a disgrace on her part. So, that being said, we're going to keep following it. I have heard in other articles that she is at a prison where she can cook, and so I'm kind of like mind blown by that. Now, that is not confirmed. That is kind of through the grapevine, that type thing. I'm not 100% familiar with how the jail and prison system works over in Australia, or if it's even a separate thing like it is here. the difference between jail and prison. But I did think that was interesting, and I was like, well, good God, keep the mushrooms away from this one. You know, I mean, come on, it's just so bizarre to me, right? If you're not familiar with it, there's a TV show called Wentworth, and I binged that show, and if I'm correct, it was set in Australia. It was almost like Orange is the New Black, but there. Now, how accurate it is, I have no idea, right? But it was very fascinating to me. So, anyways, that's it. My heart goes out to Ian. I'm glad that he is helping bring justice for himself and his friends and his loved ones. I think we'll also hear from her for estranged ex-husband, because apparently he was just like, you know, this was not a surprise to him. Okay, so I think we're going to hear some evidence that she has been kind of lurking around this evil side for a while. So let me know what you think down in the comment section. I do appreciate it if you're still watching. Roscoe asks you to throw a sofa down there in the comment section so we have a place to go down under, sit, talk about this case and others. And until we do, we'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.